Wednesday, January 13th, about just before 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And I wanted to talk for a few minutes just about the impeachment process and about what I think is most important that our Congress and our leaders do in the next few days. So before we get going, I want to do as I always do, which is to start by acknowledging the land that I'm speaking from. So I live in Washington, D.C. with my family, and we moved here from the Navajo Nation about 5.5 years ago. And the lands here in what's now known as D.C. are the lands of the Piscataway. And so I want to thank and honor the Piscataway for being the host people of these lands. And I want to thank them for their stewardship of these lands. If you've been following, like I have been on Twitter and social media and even on the news throughout the day, you will see that there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of energy, both in our Congress right now, as well as on social media and just among the American public in general. And there are a lot of people who are trying to make bold statements, trying to make strong statements, trying to condemn what has happened in the past 7 weeks. And I do believe those things are important. I do believe we have to take a stand, and I'm glad that these impeachment proceedings are moving forward. And I think it will be very good to have all of our members of Congress on record as to where they fall and where they stand on this issue, especially with the words and the rhetoric of President Trump and the way that he incited this terrorist attack on our Capitol building a week ago. So I'm glad that this is moving forward. One of the things I wanted to talk about is what I think is most important in this, and what is the message that Donald Trump, and not only Donald Trump, but I will say white America needs to hear. And it's a word that white America doesn't hear very often. It's a word I don't think Donald Trump has heard very often, which is the word no. You know, this is one of the challenges of living in a nation where white supremacy is systemic and institutionalized. Is white supremacy, yes, it results in racist and oppressive treatment towards minorities or people of color or people who are not white, but it elevates whiteness. It elevates people who are white, and it creates doors and pathways for them to do as they please and to behave as they want. And rarely are you told no. So if a person of color applies for a loan, there's a good chance they're going to hear no. If a white person, again, same socioeconomic background, applies for the similar loan, there's a good chance they're not going to hear no, they're going to hear yes. Same thing with school admissions, same thing with jobs, same thing. The problem is we have institutions that prefer, that elevate, that center whiteness. And so those people do not hear no very frequently. And I suspect, just observing Donald Trump, watching his behavior, observing the way that he interacts and conducts himself, I doubt, well, I would suspect he's gotten fairly used to, over the course of his life, being ridiculed, mocked, and shamed. He behaves as a man who has no shame, which means he's somehow been able to turn that off. And so I think he's used to being ridiculed, mocked, or shamed throughout his life. But I see very little evidence that he ever learned how to say no, or ever experienced the no, you can't do that. You can't behave that way. You can't conduct yourself in that manner, so on and so forth. And so this is where I think our Congress has a really good opportunity to say just that, to say no to him. No, you cannot behave this way. Yes, removing him from office, it most likely will be symbolic, because it will happen probably after he actually ends his term. But what will be more important is that he will be told, and for him to be told, you cannot run again. You do not have an option of running for another elected office here in the United States of America. I think to this date, up to this point today, one of the strongest and most effective disciplinary actions taken against Donald Trump has been when Twitter suspended his account permanently, taking away his megaphone, taking away his mainstream way of connecting directly to his base, taking away his bully pulpit. I think that was probably one of the most effective forms of discipline that you could possibly have given Donald Trump, is to say, no, you cannot speak that way. You cannot talk that way. No, we are going to take that platform, that microphone, your ability to do those things. We're going to take those away from you. And because Twitter is his preferred social media platform, I think that was one of the most effective things. And then for Google and for Apple and for Amazon to then shut down Parler, which would have been his second choice to go to. Again, I think that was highly effective. And so I think that the thing that Congress needs to do is Congress needs to, yes, we need to impeach Trump, not just in the House. It needs to go to trial in the Senate. And President Trump needs to see a bipartisan majority saying you cannot speak this way, you cannot behave this way, you cannot act this way. And then not only do they need to rule to remove him from office, but they need to say you can no longer run again. You're done running for office. You are done serving in a public space. And I think that will be one of the most effective ways to discipline Donald Trump and to help him learn how that, no, there are limits of what he can do. The myth of American exceptionalism, which is rooted in the lie of supremacy, which has over and over throughout his life, whether it's through his failed business ventures and his bankruptcies or the loans he's gotten or all the things that happen where he has been told yes, 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 for almost anything he's wanted to do. And now Donald Trump desperately needs to be told no. That is absolutely why I completely support what the FBI is doing and what other government officials are doing as far as charging the people who participated in this terrorist attack. And you can see how the white supremacy works in that case too, right? These people were allowed to march up right to the Capitol steps. They were allowed to go with the intentions, even stated intentions on social media, that they were going to do things like this. And there was no show of force against them. And they were allowed basically to go on, and they were able to go in. And even there were pictures of the way that they just meandered throughout the Capitol. Some were even helped down the steps as they walked out. They were allowed to walk away and to do interviews and even to get on planes and fly home. But now we have to tell them, no, you cannot behave this way. No, you cannot conduct yourself this way. No, you cannot do these things. That's the problem with white supremacy. Yes, it's oppressive. Yes, it's dehumanizing. Yes, it is completely racist. But the other problem with white supremacy is it elevates whiteness, it centers whiteness, and it tells white people over and over and over and over again, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can behave this way. Yes, there is no consequences. Yes, you can pardon yourself. Yes, 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 yes. And therefore, the lesson is never learned, that there are limits, that there are expectations, that there are behaviors you don't engage in, that there are things that even if you are allowed to do them, you still don't do them because of the broader good, because of ethical and moral and other factors that go into those types of decision makings. And so President Trump absolutely needs to learn the lesson of no. White America needs to learn the lesson of no. Our nation needs to learn the lesson of no. Yesterday on my Twitter feed, I tweeted out a statement where I said, until either the 25th Amendment is invoked and Trump is removed from office, or he is impeached by the House and found guilty by the Senate and removed from office, or until President Trump, the inauguration comes and a new president, Joe Biden, is sworn in as our next president. Up until that point, I will continue to refer to Donald J. Trump as President Trump. I'm doing this not out of respect, but to remind myself of our nation's shame. This man, Donald J. Trump, is absolutely our president. And I'm ashamed by that. The challenge we face as Americans is we are so hyper individualistic that people will say, well, he's not my president. That's not true. He is your president. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump for the next week is your president. He is my president. He's our president. And that is a shameful thing. If we tell ourselves in the world he's not our president, but we don't remove him from office, that's not true. That's a lie. I remember I was speaking one time at a conference in Pennsylvania, and I was talking on the doctrine of discovery. And as I was walking out, someone came up and they were talking with me about my remarks and what I said, and about the systemic racism and white supremacy in our foundations. And we got talking about politics, and Donald Trump came up, and someone said to me, he's not my president. I said, he is. Unless you've renounced your citizenship and left the country or just renounced your citizenship, Donald Trump is your president. We vote as individuals, but then we accept the result of that vote as a community. And Donald J. Trump, for the last 4 years, has been our nation's president. If we just say, well, he's not my president, then we are not going to be motivated to do better. We're just going to say, well, I can't take responsibility for that. He's not my president. Yes, he is. And to the communal shame of our nation, Donald J. Trump is our president. And this is why we have to continue to refer to him that way, not out of respect, but to remind us of the shame he has brought on our country and to motivate us to do better. To motivate us to do better. There are, I'm sure, going to be a lot of things we need to think about and talk about over these next few days and weeks, especially as we come up on the inauguration. I agree with everything that's being said regarding keeping the inauguration virtual. I encourage everybody to stay home. Do not attend the inauguration in person this year. Do not travel to Washington, D.C. Do not go to the mall. Even though I live here in Washington, D.C., I have no intention of going down to the mall to watch the inauguration in person. I don't want to do anything to exacerbate the tension that's already going to be there. And I also want to make sure that we protect the most vulnerable in our nation regarding COVID-19. And so I encourage all Americans to participate in this inauguration coming up in a week virtually. I also encourage people to make sure that we take COVID-19 very seriously. I saw that we had over 4,000 deaths again yesterday due to COVID-19. It was the highest day ever in our nation's, in the life of this pandemic here in our country. And the numbers are continuing to rise. I want to encourage everybody in the midst of all this, in the midst of the protests, in the midst of all the uncertainty, in the midst of the fatigue that we have as a nation, please continue to protect your health and the health of the most vulnerable in your communities. Wear masks, social distance, don't go out in public when it's unnecessary. Do not go into large gatherings or large crowds. Please protect your health and absolutely protect the health of the most vulnerable in your community. Our nation is going through some unprecedented times right now, which are rooted in our nation's history. And they are coming to the top. They are boiling to the top, boiling over like we have not seen in a long time. And I want to just encourage everybody to do what you need to do to be safe, to be healthy, and to protect the health and those in your community as well. One of the things I'm going to be talking about, I'm not sure if it's tomorrow or the next few days. If you've been watching my social media, you've been seeing I've been talking a lot about my book, On Selling Truth, the ongoing dehumanizing legacy of the doctrine of discovery. One of the themes I'm going to be talking about coming up is going to be this issue that I stated. I actually put this on my Facebook page earlier today, which is that Christian nationalism, and actually I would say white Christian nationalism specifically, is a heresy and it's rooted in the doctrine of discovery. And we need to address the fact that our nation, the political entities of our nation, are rooted in a theological heresy coming out of Christendom known as the doctrine of discovery. And it is running rampant and causing most of the chaos that we're seeing in our country today. And we have to discuss, and this is not just for Christians. If you are a citizen of the United States or impacted by the United States of America, this theological heresy known as white Christian nationalism, which is rooted in the doctrine of discovery and white supremacy and the myth of American exceptionalism, these things absolutely affect our nation. And no matter what your faith tradition may be, we have to understand how these things are intertwined. And we have to find a way to deconstruct these institutions and these systems and even these theological beliefs that we hold as a nation so that we can become something different. So that we can actually become a nation where, again, as I've said before, we the people truly means all the people. So there's a lot to be discussed in these next few days and weeks. I will continue to do my second cup of coffees. I will continue to talk and share. For those of you who are interested, I try to do these usually in the mornings. Sometimes I do them in the afternoons. But yeah, I'm even excited about my coffee this week. I got some Stumptown coffee. And so for all of the people in Portland who are listening and watching this, I've been drinking some Stumptown coffee this week, which is some very good coffee. I've also gotten a roast from a local roaster here in DC, which I really like too. So I've actually been really enjoying my second cup of coffees this week. And I'm looking forward to having some more in the next upcoming days and discussing these things as best we can. So yeah, my relatives, I hope you are all doing well today. Please walk in beauty, and may we learn how to walk in beauty together. Yeah, my relatives, and Hakonet.